Nobody's perfect. At least I know I'm not.
Well, of course, that's something Brian has much more experience than I.
Oh, Mr. Perfect over there. Uh-huh.
In all seriousness, though, humans aren't perfect. No one is. And I really do believe we recognize that. So why do we struggle to recognize the imperfection in others and accept it? Like, why can't we accept it? Not even to mention the standards that we hold ourselves to in everyday life.
So launch out with us onto the loop as we discuss perfection is not attainable on Curiosity Continuum.
Hey everybody, this is Josh.
And this is Brian.
Thank you for joining us today on Curiosity Continuum. For those of you tuning in for the first time, Curiosity Continuum is a podcast and movement started by two lifelong friends who want to spark your curiosity, help you integrate information, enhance your everyday contextual awareness in a constantly changing world. We're induced with you by sharing conversations that explore, examine, and reframe common practical topics.
So you can find us at www.curiositycontinuum.com. From there, you can find the links to link off to your favorite podcast channel, mechanism, whatever. Please subscribe. That helps us find new listeners, and it helps to make people aware of what we're doing just through some of the search results as they trend up and down. And so we'd really appreciate your support there. You can also follow us on social media. We love to hear from our listeners. And a lot of these are coming to Josh and I, sometimes through text message, sometimes through whatever, depending who's listening. And that helps us understand like where we can take this podcast for you guys.
Right, and what you guys are actually looking for. So we've had some great feedback. We had some great feedback from another lifelong friend who just really liked the cadence that we had going, really liked the topics we were discussing. And so we really do want to hear, if you guys want to hear a certain topic, or you want to hear something different, or you want us just to be, goofy for an episode. I mean, we can do that,
We have the technology.
Yeah, and we maybe have the time. I know, we'll figure it out.
We'll do something.
Yeah, but I mean, so on www.curiositycontinuum.com, you can also send us an email there. So you can just fill out the form, send us an email, tell us what you think.
Mm-hmm. Before we start into Perfection is Not Attainable, my mic is a little bit imperfect. I'm going to just adjust it right here so you hear my voice in loud and in person and in stereo. So that's much better now. So I don't have to lean down and talk to it. We all suck at something. That's just probably the best way to start it. And we usually will have grace for people who have suck in the same way we do.
Right.
Because you're trying to cover
the level there. So
you're trying to cover your own
imperfection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. No, this sounds really funny that we'd say it this way, but like you have permission not to be awesome right away.
And even if you're not ever awesome at it, that's okay.
Because nobody's equally awesome at everything.
At everything, right.
Yeah. So I know that growing up, and Josh can very much attest to this, I was very much a perfectionist. And it was like the unattainable goal. I was like, it's not that in this day and time right now where I don't like to be excellent at things. But a perfectionist is really more about like they have latched onto the fact that they actually have control on something that they don't.
Right.
And it's like that's the thing that starts to drive them bananas. Like I don't have control on X, Y, Z.
Yeah, because I mean, come on. There's all sorts of variables that we do not have control over.
True.
Yeah. So why not? Why do we try to force that control on it to get it perfect?
It makes us.
Is it more of the controlling part, or is it just like we know what is going to come, so then we're like more prepared for it?
I think human beings want to feel prepared for every situation that they go into.
Yeah.
Now, and not even an adventure. Like, hey, I'm going to go on an adventure. But if you felt somehow in danger or something,
right,
you're not going to do it. And as you go on this, or like especially if you're stepping out, we'll take dating, right?
Yeah.
Like Mr. Perfect, Mrs. Perfect, Miss Perfect. There's no such thing, but yet you want to put on your best self to do that. And what are the things that you're not going to lead with in those situations? Things like you're not good at, like.
Right. You're not going to say, you know what, I really suck at bowling, but hey, whatever.
Or like, I'm really terrible at this. Why don't we go do this together?
I don't think anyone ever, when they meet people, they will never tell them what they're bad at.
No. And that would actually be a great social exercise. If you walked up to somebody and you met him for the first time, instead of asking like the typical, like what do you do for a living,
Right.
or like where do you live, or
Yeah. Name
whatever.
3 things that you're really terrible at.
Yeah, like what's one thing that you just are not good at, or you
Right.
dislike.
Right. That is interesting. I never even thought of it from that.
It may start the conversation on a negative tone, but it might also say like, man, you don't like that either, and
So this brings it kind of back. Like, let's pull it back a little bit. Like, this is really about the hit to the ego, isn't it? Because people want to be perfect because they want to believe that, like, maybe they don't want to believe that they're perfect, but maybe they want to believe that their self picture of themselves, their ego, is intact,
mm-hmm.
and it's just good, and everybody sees them like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those people that try to project that they're perfect.
Yes.
Like, perfect mom, perfect dad, perfect family, perfect life. But then when you actually find out about them, they have like, they're struggling with, I mean, everybody struggles with stuff, but I'm not trying to like hammer on them, but they're struggling with certain things,
Yes.
but they don't project any of that.
Depending on the context,
Yeah.
what it is. One of the best interviews I've ever heard was Indra Nooyi, who is CEO of Pepsi. And what a wonderful interview this woman gave. She was so much comfortable in her own skin, talking about what it was to be CEO of one of the most powerful companies in the world.
Sure.
And how she wasn't the perfect mom, and what it meant to have like her being a daughter to her mother and stuff like that, and all those other dynamics that come into play for her, in her life in that time. And it was wonderful because you realize like everybody would just think like she hung the moon or something like that. And
Right.
she goes, these are things I struggle with. And it made her very human, and it was very endearing.
Sure. Because, I mean, when it comes right down to it, we're all just people.
We're all people.
Yeah.
But what happens is that we can apply wrong expectations or wrong levels of expectation on the not imperfectness, if I can say that they'll bring to the table on something. Like, well, I expect you to be XYZ, when that's never even a possibility in the first place.
Right.
Right? Because it makes you feel powerful to say like you have to come up to my perceived level of perfection to that point or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, if you don't do this, and this, then you're not worthy, or you don't get the
Right.
job, or you're fired, or whatever. Now there's like realistic things, but when you start to put people on pedestals
Yeah. That's the
wrongfully,
problem. Yeah.
it happens a lot in the public space. If you're a
Sure.
celebrity or a public figure, like,
They have this perception of you.
yeah.
People do.
And then it's like you do something wrong, and it's like everybody like loves to see a hero fall.
Yeah.
As much as they love to see a rise, they love to see the hero.
I mean, some of the stuff that they're doing wrong is terrible.
well, we're not.
We're not abdicating that or like saying that that's not terrible. But some of it is just being a normal human being.
Yeah.
Like, they got into a fight with their significant other in public. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, that happens every single day and no one cares unless it's two celebrities going at
Unless
it.
it's Justin Bieber or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And he recently posted something where he was just very honest about what it was for him to be a young man, all of a sudden have all this power and influence and stuff like that, and what that did. And people are like, going, I can't believe he was like that. It's like going like this. He was very honest about something. Like, why would
Yeah.
we expect because you're a singer or a celebrity
that you're more than human.
Yeah, or like you're a better person.
Right.
We're all people.
Yeah.
You just have a more visible job.
Right. And I mean, in a way, he was a child star too. So it's like,
Yeah.
he maybe never had like a normal, what we would call quote unquote normal growing up.
Yeah, he posted, it flipped so fast when it flipped.
Right.
That he was just flung in. Like, what he needed was a lot of other influences speaking to him, but he didn't know.
Right.
I mean, like, look, if you were,
And how could he?
he was like 15, 16 at the
Yeah.
time. It's like, you don't know,
No.
and that's not a realistic thing to put on somebody. But, part of this, I think, too, Josh, goes in the fact that for the things we are good at, and like I think a lot of people know, like, well, I'm really not good at this.
Right.
But people also know, like, I am good at this. And they feel like their imperfectness or their shortfallings in the areas they're not good at almost mitigates how they're good at something else. Not everybody does this, but imagine this with me. So it's called imposter syndrome, where basically
Okay.
you feel like you're a poser in your own life. Like,
Right.
am I
So-
really that good? Am I really like that? Do people really think that? Now I got to meet their expectation about
So now
what's
you're
going on.
worried about the expectation that maybe is true or not that somebody's putting on yourself,
Yeah.
on you.
What you're doing is like you're kind of dumbing down your own abilities with it. Like, I pretend to put on this face that I can do all these things, and you really can. But it's like, but you don't believe in yourself enough to do it. Because you say,
Okay.
well, I don't do it at the level people think I am. It's like, well, they want you because you're you.
Right.
They want you because, yes, there are expectations, and they should be there. Like, no expectations is not good.
Right.
But also being forthright to go, hey, you know what? I'm not really good at that. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to listen to other folks and take that.
Keep some humility.
Yeah. And you keep learning.
Yeah.
We run into problems as businesses, as people, as society, when we can't just readily admit this is where I begin and end as much.
So this reminds me a lot of my grandfather, my both my grandfathers, but really my dad's dad. He always learned stuff. He had subscriptions to like National Geographic, Popular Science. He was always learning about new things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was like this guy in his 70s and was always learning. He would tell me stuff that was like the newfangled dangled technology, and I'm like, seriously? Like, I didn't even know about it. But he knew about it. He spent like hours every day in the morning reading these magazines. There's no internet back then. So it was just like, and even if there was, he wouldn't have had it, because, a lot of people have those relatives that are just like, or they did, they were just like, not going to do it. But he always learned stuff. And if he didn't know the answer, he would find it.
That's a good life skill to have.
Yeah.
Right there, just to do. You know what's interesting too, Josh? Like people, like Olympic athletes, where they've achieved the pinnacle
Right.
of what they do. Like Michael Phelps has accomplished quite a bit in his life. People say he's the perfect Olympic athlete, but then there's also like, now what?
Or the time like maybe he fell from grace a little bit.
Yeah.
That. Why? Oh my goodness! You can't do that.
Right. It's like you're not what you do. You are who you are.
Right.
And that's a big thing to. It might be another podcast episode on that. Just like, basically, you're a human being, and so that's how you're made, and your only value is not just in what you do.
Sure.
But sometimes when you appropriate that, especially men, they're really good at saying, I can do this thing, therefore I have value.
Right.
And when that, you kind of see like the chink in the armor, and it will appear, and it will happen. Then all of a sudden now, you thought, well, I thought I was better than that. It's like, well, no, you're not perfect. You're a human being.
Yeah.
And that should be okay.
And it's okay. Like, you can't be perfect. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And as soon as you start to put that on somebody else, it's real bad, real quick.
Right. So, like, in a relationship or whatever, I mean, it's just not going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a good place to put a comma in the conversation for it.
Yeah, I agree.
So don't be perfect. Don't try to be perfect. Get better, but realize that.
Yeah, always be improving yourself, but realize that you're never going to be perfect.
Yep.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Until next time, this is Brian
And this is Josh.
for Curiosity Continuum.